What is up? How are we doing? All right, so if you're on YouTube, go ahead and type your name so I see who's here. Instagram, I see y'all when y'all pop up. What's up, Pierce? You lost by 1 point, man. 1 point. That stinks. What's up, Kaylee? How are you? You should have been on Zoom. We had a blast. We had a good game. So, all right. So today's lesson was talking about pain, right? So we've been in this pain. We've had this pain essentially for since really the school we've let out for school. For Knox County, it was when spring break started. This is Sevier County spring break. We're on this quarantine, right? So it's talking about this pain and the pain, but it's not just talking about the pain that we have, right? So we have this last Wednesday when we talked, we have this inherited pain, or we have this bad choice pain, right? Or we're going through this bad season. We have this bad pain. This pain is if you've ever worked out or if you've ever done something strenuous, like, that first activity I did with y'all, a lot of y'all came back to me the next few days and was like, man, I'm sore. We went hiking. We did jump jam or wherever we went, top jump. We were sore. We were tired. And, our bodies just ached. And a lot of time we have this deep agony the same exact way. We have this pain that we go through, and emotionally it's essentially the same exact pain. So today we're going to be in Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 through 46. Matthew chapter 26, 36 through 46. What's up, Kelsey? What's up, Bo? What's up, Jude? Dakota, I see you. Lily, I saw that you logged on. Hi, how's everybody doing? Y'all should have been on Zoom. We had a good game. Going on. Pierce lost by 1. Jude lost by 2. Lily lost by like 15. So break it down into I'm actually going to read over it, and then as I explain it, I'm going to refer back to the verses because, there's just a lot of comparison going back and forth. All right, so we have the prayer in the garden. This is when Jesus went to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane when he went to pray in the betrayal with the kiss. All right, so what had happened prior to this was he predicts Peter's denial. They were having the Lord's Supper. They had this, that, or the other, right? So verse 36, then Jesus came, Matthew chapter 26, verse 36. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane. And he told the disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. Taking along Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. He said to them, I am deeply grieved to a point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me. Going a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, my Father, if this is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but your will. So, verses 36 through 39, this is this time of agony that I was talking about. This is this troubling time. So there's a few things that he realizes as he's coming through. The first thing he sees is this crucifixion that lays ahead. He's been a perfect person here on earth. He's the Son of God, and there's this. He knows what he's getting ready to experience. He has this prolonged torture. And we know, as we read through Easter, and I talked about his crucifixion at Easter a little bit, and I talked a lot about Lazarus, but his crucifixion, what is this torture going to look like? The crucifixion on the cross is meant to be a prolonged torture. It's meant to be the piercings of the hands and feet. It's either going to be extremely hot in the sun, or it could have been bitter cold and freezing. He's going to have the crowds yelling at him and mocking him. He's going to breathe. He's going to have to stand up on his pierced feet and push up on his pierced feet just to take a breath. And as he does that, he's going to become physically weaker and delirious. And this crucifixion, depending on the person, where they hit the nails and the screws or how it worked, this could have lasted hours. This could have lasted days. No one knew. All right. But it was intentionally meant to be a slow death. And it was supposed to, it was supposed to punish the person who did it, who they thought was doing wrong. But it was also meant to have this maximum agony on top of it. It was to show the people that, hey, if you do something wrong, if you come in and you try to be a pirate to the Roman, we're going to crucify you. And this is what you get to experience. All right. And the second simile here that we have, verse 39, it talks about this cup. Let this cup pass from me. This cup in the Old Testament always meant suffering or the wrath of God, right? This suffering or this wrath of God. And we see a similarity here because Jesus knows what's getting ready to happen. This is death for sin. And, as we sin, if we don't know Christ, we're going to die. We're going to have this pain and this suffering. And when you sin, it has this wrath of God on it. So not only did God have to send Jesus to earth, but because he's dying for not just my sins, but everybody's sins, he now has to experience the wrath of God. So how would you feel if you came and you lived a perfect life, and then the only thing that the end story is, I'm going to have to be hung on the cross. All right, that's what Jesus came. He came to the garden. He knew what was going to happen. He knew this torture, and he knew he was getting ready to have the sin of the whole world placed upon him as he got hung on this cross. And he was going to have to feel the wrath of his Father, who he continuously pleased his entire life. So verse 40 through 44. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. He asked Peter, so couldn't you stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray so that you won't enter into temptation. The spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went away to pray, my Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. And he came again and found them sleeping because they could not keep their eyes open. So after leaving them again, he went away and prayed for a third time, saying the same thing once more. These verses right here, especially 42 through 44, it's scared of the will of God. He's wanting to make sure, right? Jesus goes back and it seems like he's praying the same thing, and he's almost like he's begging God to take this from him, right? And Jesus ain't scared. I fully believe, right, in these verses that, he's not scared of the will of God. He's not rejecting God's will, because he ends every verse, may your will be done, but not as my will, but as yours. So he's fully prepared to take on whatever God has for him, right? And, whatever this is getting ready to happen, he's prepared to take it on full responsibility. But what he's doing right here in this time of prayer is he's ensuring that this suffering was the will of God. He's ensuring that this will that was put upon him was what God wanted. And it wasn't something that Satan was tempting him, or Satan was getting ready to put him through this. So he was ensuring that this was God, that this was God's will. All right, and then the last thing in these verses 45 and 46, and I'm also going to jump back and forth, 38, 41, and 43. But verses 45, and then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? See, the time is near. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of the sinners. Get up, let's go. My betrayer is at hand." And verse 38, 41, and 43 all hit at this at the same time. People who were the closest to Jesus, the people who Jesus walked with, they asked, all he asked was for him to sit and pray. And they fell asleep. They were supposed to be keeping watch. And I can almost, it just talks about these three disciples. I can guarantee the rest of the disciples were probably napping as well, right? So we have this weakness and this failure. And Jesus asked them to stay awake and to keep watch. And they couldn't even stay awake. They had just eaten. They were full. They know Jesus said he was going to die on the cross. They know Judas had ran off from the table because he knew he would be betrayed, right? But 99% of the time, and I'm saying for most of the time, I'm not saying every time we sin, but we do not sin out of ignorance. You don't sin because you don't know, right? I didn't know that was a sin. You knew, right? You had a bad idea. There was something in the back of your mind telling you, hey, I probably shouldn't be doing this, right? But chances are you sinned. Chances are you knew it was a bad idea. You had a bad feeling about it. Sin is weakness. We sin because we're weak. We sin because we're unwilling to go what God tells us to do. We sin because we're selfish. I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. Deep spiritual battle. We have these deep spiritual battles that are at stake. We're not alert. We just don't, we're so involved and so focused on what's in front of us that we're letting the people around us down. Or we're not alert at our post or playing, and we're not doing our part, right? Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, they weren't doing their part. Yeah, they were praying. They fell asleep. They weren't keeping watch. Jesus went and asked them, keep watch. And eventually he came back that second time and they were still asleep. And he's like, I'll just leave them. They don't even care. Right? Then verse 46 sums it up. Jesus did not give up on the disciples. Jesus, he went back and he said, hey, no. He didn't just let them sleep. He woke them up as the betrayers were coming. He got them up to their feet. And even though he knew what was about to happen, even though he knew the suffering that was going to come, he still took it on because that's what God's will was done. Right? Now, that's just the prayer in the garden, right? But what does this story actually mean, right? All of us are going through these trials and all of us are going through these tribulations. We have these seasons of pain and these seasons of suffering, right? What this is telling us is Jesus, even in his time of pain and suffering, he didn't go pray alone. He didn't go and try to take this on by himself, right? He took his disciples, they went to the garden, he left a group, he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee with him, and they went with him. As humans, we all fall short of the glory of God, right? But if we believe, you will be saved. So I ask you, when you pray, and what does these scriptures mean? When I pray, I can express all of my emotions to a God. Crying out to God only honors Christ when I am committed to submitting to the Father's will. Don't pray. If you're by yourself, pray. If you don't know what to do, pray. If you're struggling, pray. When you get done praying, ask people to pray with you. All right. Y'all got my number. I know y'all got each other's numbers, right? And it could just be, hey, I got something going on. Just pray for me. God knows what we're getting ready to pray about. God hears all praise. He knows what's in our hearts. He knows what's in our minds. God understands what we're about to do, right? So if you ask for prayer and they pray for you, like they say you're going to pray for you, to pray with you, right? Because the people you're with and are praying for you, they care about you. All right. This praying, this suffering, the title is you can't handle this, you can't handle this. God gives us things that we need to go to him for. We can't handle it by ourselves. We handle it because we lean on God. All right. And prayer and suffering brings us closer to God through prayer. All right. So I'm glad I got to see y'all today. You know, we got on Zoom. I'm going to look at something else. Like I said, I got Ava. I owe you Chick-fil-A. So I love y'all. I care about y'all. We'll look for something else again. See y'all Sunday at 9:15. I'm going to pray, and we're going to log off. God, I just want to thank you for all the many blessings you pour upon us, Lord. I want to thank you for giving us ways and opportunities just to see each other's face and have fun and interact. Lord, I thank you. I love you, and I care about you. And I care about my students, Lord. If they're ever going through pain or suffering this season, I pray that they not only bring it to you and they grow closer to you in this season, but then they also bring people into this pain with them just to pray for them. They don't need to know what it's about. If they want to tell them, that's fine, great. If not, just unspoken request. Just pray for me. I'm going through some things. And God will be there. And God knows what we're praying for, Lord. I pray that you continue to be a hedge of protection around these students as the future seems so dark and weary right now, Lord. I pray that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I pray that when we get to come back together, that there's singing and fellowship and, there's great things. Lord, we love you. We thank you for everything that you do. In your name I pray. Amen. All right, y'all have a great day.